Radical self-care is a relatively unknown subject in the mainstream, so I thought I'd shed some light on it and show you how to apply it in your life. But Salad Cream Boy, you majestic stallion of an informer, I hear you ask. What exactly is radical self-care? Well, dear viewer, flattery will get you everywhere, so allow me to enlighten you. So, as that charming viewer just asked me, with no further ado, what exactly is radical self-care? Radical self-care is the assertion that you have the responsibility of taking care of yourself before you start taking care of others. Sometimes it's just necessary to fill your cup up first before you think about, giving the overflow to others. This is what gives you the capacity to move forward and move on to the next chapter in your life. Simply put, if you're struggling to take care of yourself, then how are you meant to do that with someone else? Now, let's just move on to what it involves, shall we? Radical self-care embraces practices which keeps us healthy not only just physically but also mentally, making time to reflect on what matters to us, challenging ourselves to grow, and keeping ourselves in check to make sure that what we're doing aligns with what matters to us. For example, when I lay in bed this morning deciding exactly why I should put both of my feet on the floor, I realised that there are precious few reasons that I could ever come up with. Like my free-roam rabbit trying to get my attention to say that it needs food by jumping on my crotch, the morning rush to the toilet before I wet myself after said attack by the bunny. Hey baby. Speaking of which, whiskey. Yes, it is too early in the day to drink, but it is never too early to think about. But the number one reason why I put my feet into those size 11 slippers every morning is to do stuff like this and provide for my family, create a better future, and if stuff like this helps someone along the way, well, that's just a bonus. Anyway, I digress. So the reason why we call this kind of self-care radical is because it fundamentally changes the way we make our choices about our money, about our time, and about our energy, and how we use it for ourselves. So when we take that leap of faith and begin, this involves owning our lives and choosing who we spend it with, how we do it, and how often. This is so that we can be ourselves in the face of unrelenting pressure and expectations to be the opposite. I hope you're taking notes down, kids. Salad Cream Boy to Enterprise, are you reading me? You know what, I just love this little thing. Sorry, again, I digress. So as I was saying, we're also doing this so that we can be ourselves without feeling the need to apologise for it. Oh, by the way, this is a microphone, so just ignore it. So anyway, most of us are living in constant stress, which means we're often running on empty. Most days we wake up wishing things could be different, and that actually just makes us feel a bit worse, because it's actually really difficult to act like a loving, happy and kind person when you just actually feel like you're not. What if I told you that you could remain in a positive state more often? Of course, realistically, this isn't going to be 100% of the time. You know the saying, into every life rain must fall. And at the end of the day, actually no, that comes later. Spoilers. But most of us can actually find ways of being more positive more often. It starts with finding ways to nurture and nourish ourselves so that we can stay more centered. Oh, and by the way, I just really appreciate it if what I just told you was helpful. If you just consider smashing that like button, it would just really help in spreading the word. And with that, let's just get back to it, shall we? So, just in case that complimentary viewer at the start of the video is wondering, this is how we're going to begin. I've actually discovered a few ways to help you start on that journey. So I've actually done this in 3 stages. The first stage I'd like to cover in radical self-care is get to know yourself. So you might actually find it therapeutic to start writing down things that you like, and write down things that drive you, and things that actually make your heart flutter a little bit. This actually makes it easier to move forward, as then you're looking for these things in everything that you're doing. Also, by doing this, you're making sure that whatever you are doing with your time, your money and your energy actually brings you happiness, because it's something that you genuinely like. So the second thing for radical self-care is to get to the core of things. So this is the part that might not seem so easy. So what this might look like for some people is to go into some kind of therapy, and some people might actually find that meditation is helpful, as it's another way of scanning yourself for what you need, and also for getting yourself into a good mindset. But whatever you do try and accomplish this, it's a necessary step to move forward. So my third step to radical self-care is to declutter. And I mean this in every sense of the word. So this, guys, might be the hardest thing of all to do. And I really do mean in every aspect of your life here. Is this something that I'm actually going to be using, or does this just hold some sentimental value? Or is this just taking up some space? Whether that means physically or mentally. So another way to declutter is like on things like Facebook, where you might hear people every so often say that they're going to do a purge of friends, and if you're still there, then you're lucky. This is a prime example of someone getting rid of all the clutter so they can focus on the people that matter to them. Another way is to cut loose someone who is just toxic in your life, and maybe to end that relationship that, you know, is just doing you more harm than good. And this idea doesn't necessarily stop with things and people either. For example, if you're attending events or you're doing certain things because it's just expected of you but you really don't want to do it, then don't. So yes, this might actually sound mean at first, and one of the first things that you might be thinking when you start doing things like this is, what's going to happen if I do? But if you just simply think about, if I keep this in my life, and is it going to do anything positive for me? And the answer to that is no. Then honestly, the answer's simple, and it's honestly time to stop and let it go. So by embracing radical self-care, you're not being nasty. All you're doing is safeguarding your own well-being by removing something or someone, or even removing a habit that doesn't serve you any purpose anymore. So the point of radical self-care is, well, that it's a radical change, and also that anything worth having in life doesn't come easy. So the moral of this story is that it's sometimes necessary to make drastic changes in your life if it's in the name of your own well-being, without thinking about, who am I going to hurt, who am I going to upset, and you don't need to worry about it or apologize for anything. Sometimes you need to do things for you, no matter what anyone else says. And by actually taking care of ourselves, we're actually giving ourselves the ability to take care of others further down the line. So these are just a few of my suggestions on how to start you on your way. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, or even questions of your own, feel free to pop them down in the comments below. And it would mean a lot to me, and it would help the channel to reach more people and help more people if you would consider smashing that like button. And subscribe if you want more on mental health and mental well-being. And as I mentioned earlier, it's like I always say, at the end of the day, wait for it, it gets dark.